Do people remember Legend of Legaia? I can barely remember how I got the demo disc, but I immediately asked my parents to take me to the grocery store to buy it. The demo of Legend of Legaia covers the opening sequence of Rim Elm, and it tells a delightful story of a quaint coastal village tucked away from the mists that have ravaged the continent. Life continues normally there, thanks to the efforts of the hunters, and they go out each day to secure provisions, while the rest of the community stays behind the safety of the walls. Vaughn, the protagonist, is on the cusp of coming of age and becoming a hunter himself, training every morning with a local resident who once belonged to the Byron Monastery. This martial artist monk has taught Vaughn the art of fighting, and Vaughn's final training session with him serves as an introduction to one of the greatest combat systems, in my opinion, of any JRPG. In this system, the directional input buttons correspond to the upper, lower, left, or right attacks. So, for example, if you input 3 up commands, your character will inflict 3 uppercut punches to the enemy. By trying out different combinations, you may stumble across a special art, like the up-down-up command. There's a special animation sequence that plays whenever you discover one of these arts for the first time, after which you can reference a list of arts in an arts book that you pull up from the input selection screen. Over time, you can input more commands, meaning that you can discover more complex arts. Some of these arts can be learned from books in the game, but many of them you discover for yourself through experimentation. Once your characters are able to input longer commands, you have the option to inflict giant special arts attacks, or even multiple shorter arts all at once. The characters in this game actually look like they're performing martial arts moves. The graphics remind me a lot of Tekken, and their bodies and movement lend a degree of credibility to the battle. The characters jump, flip, and spin across the field with realistic body proportions and speed, making for a battle that is extremely satisfying to watch. I have always been impressed with this game's battle system. It was something that kept me coming back to this game over the years because of how involved the player feels. Instead of simply selecting attack and then watching your player attack, the player is given the agency of deciding how exactly to attack, which body parts to use, and which areas of the enemies to strike. For example, if an enemy is hovering off of the ground, you don't want to use an arts that uses a lot of lower attacks because they'll miss. You can also meditate with the Spirit command to increase the amount of commands that you can use in the next round. The other thing that blew me away about the battle system was that every item you equip, from headbands to knee guards to wristbands, appears on your character model. Your characters are actually wearing every piece of equipment that you put on them. The equipment, however, also has an effect over your character's fighting style. If you equip characters with a large club, not only will they appear holding a club, but the size of their left hand input command will take up more space in the command bar because the club is heavier and it takes more time for them to swing it. It may be more powerful, but your input command space is restricted. On the other hand, equipping a light knife might reduce the size of that action, allowing you to put, say, 4 right hand input commands instead of 3. Not only is this battle system extremely fun and dynamic, but it's also challenging. I frequently got my butt handed to me at every boss battle. More than 20 years later, Legaia still stands out as something special. However, the combat is not the only thing that this game has going for it. The story is not complicated, but it's told very well. The game has a mythic quality to it that makes the simplicity of the story feel elegant. The progression through the world also feels very rewarding, because as you travel from place to place through the mist, you'll encounter small communities where all of the residents have been zombified by the mist. Your character has the power to revive a tree that eliminates the mist in that area, restoring the community and the residents to their former selves. Combine this with one of the best video game soundtracks I've ever heard, and you have one heck of a game. Like its battle system, the music of this game is unique. It's percussive and atmospheric. The frequent use of resonant drums and echoing ambience create a very special sense of space. To this day, the music still brings this game to life, and gives character to the world and story. Unlike other JRPGs where you recruit a large team, Legaia restricts you to a team of 3. There's not a lot of psychological depth to these characters like in other games, but since the story is more mythical in its proportions than political and realistic, this archetypal quality of the 3 heroes feels right and purposeful. They're likable and memorable, but they also function differently than characters like Cloud and Tifa. They embody ideas more than being representations of complex psyches. For instance, Noah is the embodiment of youth and wilderness. Raised by wolves, she is a kind of Artemis, a Diana of the woods, the virgin god of the wilderness, both innocent and ferocious. Gala, on the other hand, is a fighter of discipline and theory. Whereas Noah fights with the primal, animalistic teachings of nature, Gala fights in the tradition of masters and shifus. He is the persistence of civilization, and Noah is the resilience of nature. That being said, this game does not fail to deliver on human emotion. Spoiler alert for something that happens very close to the beginning of the game. Mei, a character with some romantic connection to the hero, loses her father, and her reaction to seeing his dead body is both moving and authentic. If you've never played Legend of Legaia, I hope this video explained why it's special to me, and still worth appreciating today. On old hardware, this game for sure has not aged perfectly. You will have to have some patience to get through it. There really isn't a great way to play this game in 2023 because it was never remastered. After one attempt at a PS2 sequel, this series seems to have been abandoned. If you've played it recently, I'd love to hear from you how it holds up today. For the rest of you, if you're looking for an old gem to dig up, this may be the one you're looking for.